We're back. We're back because this is horrific. This I have been stomping, steaming around my house for the last 30 minutes because I cannot believe what I just learned on the NCAA tournament March Madness selection show. Oh, good evening, and thank you for enjoying with the Six Pack, the Scotty Six Pack, the only podcast looking at all things Wisconsin sports, Badgers, Brewers, Packers, Bucks, and beyond. I'm your host, Hedrick Summers. I cover the Wisconsin Badgers for Athlon Sports, and I got what I wanted. I got what I wanted. The universe has cosmically punished me, cosmically punished you, Wisconsin Badgers sportsmen, has cosmically punished all of us because I said, who covers two sports in the winter, the men's basketball team and the Wisconsin women's hockey team, I said I made the grand mistake of saying I would rather just not have to choose. I would rather not have to choose between going to the Frozen Four next weekend in Minneapolis, as Wisconsin tries to win its record 8th national championship, have a program record 38 wins along the way, beat the University of Minnesota 6 times in a season for the first time ever, complete what could be all but a perfect season with only 1 loss on the record and 2 ties. I said, don't make me choose between that and staying a comfortable 30-minute walk from Pfizer Forum at my home and covering the Wisconsin Badgers men's basketball team from right here, right where I am. I asked, I would just like to not choose. I would rather not choose. I do not have to choose. I do not have to choose because the Wisconsin Badgers men's basketball team got the most horrific draw for a 3 seed that I could have possibly imagined. It's not necessarily about the quality of opponent. Because, yes, there is a question of opponent quality here that I understand people are not getting when I talk about Wisconsin's draw here. I completely get that. But there is a situational issue here that I think dwarfs all of it and turns this into an all-time March Madness bracket snub. The more I sat and thought about it, the more upset I got. The more I sat and thought about it, the more reasons I found to find this draw horrifying. Horrifying. A miscarriage of justice unto the 35 games the Wisconsin men's basketball team has played thus far, posting a 26-9 record, avenging quad 1 losses en route to a Big Ten tournament championship appearance. Avenging a loss to UCLA in which John Tonje was held scoreless, and he instead goes torching hot in that game, hitting his first 9 shots from the field to go 9 of 10. Avenging a loss to Michigan State in the Big Ten tournament semifinal. A loss previously that Wisconsin had at Michigan State and had its worst shooting performance from the field and from 3 of the season. Avenging that loss. Coming ever so close to avenging a December loss to Michigan in the Big Ten tournament final, which, like, whatever. But Wisconsin had to play 4 games in 4 days. Along the way, Wisconsin found itself on the wrong side of playing in Milwaukee. The wrong side. This is reasonable if you look at where the committee decided to place teams. And I need to place somewhere on the screen an actual image of the bracket so that, like, people know what's going on. But Wisconsin is not in Milwaukee. Wisconsin is headed to the Denver sub-region. And we're going to get into why I think that is a horrific draw momentarily. Let's pull it up. Here it is in all its beauty. Says Calvin of CBS Points. We're gonna go to how do we hit the? We're gonna hit the percent button here. This is really great live radio, interrupting the meltdown. We'll call it that I have been having. Oh, just excellent, excellent, excellent stuff. I need to project. I forgot how to do this. Whatever. Wisconsin heads Denver as the 3 seed in its pod, playing Montana, the Grizzlies. The Grizz? They just the Grizz? I think they just might be the Grizz. I don't remember. In the first round of that matchup. Followed by playing the. Why can I not add a thing here? Followed by playing what may be 6 seed BYU or 11 seed VCU, the out of the Atlantic 10 Conference. Why can I not add something here? Discard changes. This is like fine and dandy for Wisconsin to be a 3 seed, not necessarily get to Milwaukee, but the reasoning for it is so weird in a way that I was convinced, and I've been telling people for longer. I've been more bullish on Milwaukee than everybody else for quite some time, and I understand that I was wrong, obviously, but oh, there we go. That's what I've been missing. The share screen button that I had just off of my own screen. There we go. The reason was because I did not think that the committee was going to place a huge premium on putting teams that were really out of driving range to their sub-regional sites into slightly closer sub-regional sites, especially when you have the opportunity to reward some of these top 4 seeds with sub-regions that are incredibly close to their actual sites or to their actual campuses. What ends up happening is Iowa State and Kentucky are just 2 spots higher on the 1 to 68 seed list than Wisconsin is. And you think, okay, Wisconsin doesn't blow a game to Oregon, maybe they're not there. Wisconsin doesn't blow a game to Penn State, maybe they're not there. Maybe Wisconsin gets in regardless. Fair. Frankly, the quad 1 wins, the top end of the resume for Iowa State and for Kentucky is just better than what Wisconsin has. I really think so. Both of those teams have double-digit quad 1 wins. Wisconsin has 8. Okay. Both of those teams are above 500 in quad 1. Wisconsin is 500 in quad 1. The high end of the resume makes sense for if you want to put those 2 teams above Wisconsin on the 1 to 68 seed list. I completely understand that. In fact, I probably agree with it. Unreal that I could agree with such a move. That you say, Kendrick, but I thought this was a miscarriage of justice. A miscarriage of justice, but you agree with the process that puts these 2 teams above Wisconsin on the seed line, that in turn puts them in Milwaukee. Nay. That should not, in turn, put both of those teams in Milwaukee. The reason we get these 2 teams in Milwaukee is because we have to put 2 seed Alabama in Cleveland? Because that's their next closest sub-region. Because Florida goes to Raleigh. Totally fair. Totally reasonable. Florida goes to Raleigh. Duke goes to Raleigh. So Alabama cannot go to Raleigh. Okay, fine. Alabama cannot go to Lexington because Tennessee goes to Lexington. Because Auburn goes to Lexington. That's fair. That's reasonable. I get it. So they say, well, what is within driving distance of Tuscaloosa, Alabama? Within driving distance of Tuscaloosa, Alabama is, as everybody knows, Cleveland, Ohio. A brief 11-hour stint in the car from Tuscaloosa through the heart of Appalachia, we get to Cleveland, Ohio. Just a hop, skip, and a jump away. Tuscaloosa is from Cleveland, Ohio, where, of course, Alabama should go for their sub-region. As a reward, Alabama is rewarded with a trip to Cleveland, Ohio. Yes, of course they should be. At least that's what you say if you are on this NCAA tournament committee and placing teams within sub-regions. Instead of saying, okay, Cleveland, not really driving distance from Alabama anyway. Let's throw Alabama out in Denver. Makes sense. Let's throw Alabama out in Providence. Let's throw Alabama just about wherever, because whatever. We'll call it Denver. So it's not that far of a flight anyway. And because compared to Cleveland, it is not Denver, Ohio, which is apparently a place. Which compared to Cleveland is quite a bit further driving wise, but I would guess that flying there is just about as reasonable as flying to Cleveland is from Tuscaloosa. But because we have to put Alabama in Cleveland, you cannot put Kentucky in Cleveland. Because you cannot put Kentucky in Cleveland. Kentucky one spot higher on the seed line, then goes to Milwaukee, in turn keeping Wisconsin from Milwaukee. Because we have to put Alabama in Cleveland, Ohio as a reward for its performance as a 2 seed. I find that inexcusable, particularly considering all of the other factors that then come to fruition by putting Wisconsin in Denver. Wisconsin, which just played 4 games in 4 days, then instead of playing in Milwaukee a Friday, Sunday sub-regional, plays in Denver a Thursday, Saturday sub-regional. Congratulations, Wisconsin Badgers. You played 4 games in 4 days. We now put you in Denver. And yeah, that's not really the committee's fault necessarily, because this is the thing that happens to anybody who goes far in the SEC tournament, anybody who goes far in the American, anybody who goes far in the Big Ten. Every year this happens. Every year this happens. Everybody has the same complaint. But let's pack that on a couple more times, on top of the fact that you could have just put Bama in Denver or Bama wherever, put Kentucky in Cleveland, and had Wisconsin in Milwaukee to avoid that fact, which probably would have been, better treatment for a 3 seed without really taking anything away from a 2 seed. Because I don't think putting Alabama in Cleveland is really a reward for putting together an impressive resume. I don't. Nonetheless, you ship the Wisconsin Badgers out to Denver, Colorado for a sub-region, which includes in a first-round matchup with the Montana Grizzlies. It is Grizzlies, not just Grizz. I think their logo says Grizz. With the Montana Grizzlies, who since Donald Trump was inaugurated a second time, has lost 1 game. Montana has lost 1 game during this Trump presidency, I should say. Since January 20th, Montana has lost 1 basketball game in overtime. Montana has now lost a regulation game since January 18th. Since the year of our Lord 2025 has begun, this is a team that has 2 regulation losses and 1 overtime. And you say, Kendrick, but this isn't a good team by the predictives. This isn't a good team that, even if you break it down by Bart Torvik by sorting the data into the last month, it's not a team that looks like it's on an absolute heater. Well, I think this team has another couple of them. Another couple of advantages that the 6th seed in this region, BYU, also has. a BYU team that is quite good. And frankly, I think would be a ton of fun to watch play Wisconsin. Like, would be a ton of fun in basically any instance. This is the number 10 and number 11 offense in the country by adjusted offensive efficiency, according to KenPom. Two teams that love to shoot the three and can absolutely shoot the three. Really, really, really fun shooting teams all around. I think that'll be a ton of fun to watch. But of course, they're from Provo. Because we had to reward Alabama with this trip to Cleveland, because it is, ever so slightly closer than Denver or wherever, we had to put Wisconsin, which you could have just put in Milwaukee with a sub-regional, in Denver, in a Thursday regional, with BYU, which is closer to Denver than the University of Wisconsin, and with Montana, which is closer to Denver than the University of Wisconsin. You say, Kendrick, but if we put Alabama there, you are punishing the 2 seed. You are punishing the 2 seed with those same factors. And shouldn't you instead give some more preferential treatment to Alabama, even if Cleveland isn't necessarily reward? You don't want to punish them by putting them in Denver with that BYU team and with that Montana team that would be closer to the sub-region. But that's not how the bracket works. You would move the Robert Morris team that Alabama is playing in Cleveland to Denver along with them. You would move the St. Mary's team that is playing Vanderbilt in Cleveland along with them, which also, by the way, makes more sense for that matchup. Makes more sense for St. Mary's to not have to play Vanderbilt in Cleveland, which is actually kind of close to Cleveland. But instead, you have bubble team Vanderbilt from Nashville in Cleveland to play an actual at-large, really good team out of the WCC in St. Mary's in Cleveland. Nashville to Cleveland, by the way, is a 7.5-hour drive. Nothing. Not compared to getting from the Bay Area. You kidding me? Literally all of these problems would have been fixed by flipping these 2 sub-regionals. All of them. Now, BYU and Montana, which are closer to the sub-region than Madison, Wisconsin is, are set up to play a Wisconsin team that is not used to the altitude. By the way, Montana in Missoula and BYU in Provo are both already used to the altitude, are set to play a Wisconsin Badgers team on Thursday. And did I mention that Wisconsin just played 4 games in 4 days? Unbelievable. An all-time hack job. All time. Unbelievable. Unreal. This is the worst I can remember feeling at any time in my college basketball watching existence. This is the worst. There's all of these. This is the worst I can remember feeling when a bracket has come out, because I am infuriated by this decision. Yeah, you know what? If you don't lose to Oregon, if you don't lose to Penn State, if you're Wisconsin, it probably doesn't matter. It probably doesn't matter. You end up on the right side of Milwaukee. Fine. But like I said, I don't even think that it is unreasonable to say Iowa State and Kentucky, you just have better resumes. That's fine. But that doesn't mean Wisconsin didn't have to be in Milwaukee. It would have made more sense for both Alabama, which now might have to play Vandy in Cleveland, by the way, if Vandy wins that first round matchup, which, again, closer to Cleveland than Tuscaloosa is. Oh my God. Frankly, Robert Morris might be closer to Cleveland than Tuscaloosa is. Let's find out about Garnet Moon, Pennsylvania to Cleveland. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not even 2 hours away. What are we doing here? This makes way more sense if you just put the Alabama sub-regional in Denver. Don't know if this is Ryan or Rajiv of Locked Up Badgers. But there, your Fitz meltdown. I assume it is Ryan. That sounds very Ryan coded to me. But yeah, this is the decision that doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. I am fine. I am totally fine keeping Iowa State and Kentucky above Wisconsin on the 1 to 68 seed list. But there's no reason that means that Wisconsin should not be going to Milwaukee. There's no reason that Alabama should be going to Cleveland. Kentucky should be in Cleveland. Wisconsin should be in Milwaukee, and all of these problems are solved. It is better for Alabama as the 2, and it is better for literally all 3 of those teams. Literally all 3 of those teams. If we look at Kentucky playing in Milwaukee as well, Illinois there. I mean, I guess that's a little push-pull. Like, doesn't totally matter either way. I think it is kind of wacky, and I knew this was a potential going in that Illinois could end up in Milwaukee. Like, fine, whatever. But Texas or Xavier and then Troy, yeah. I mean, like, it's fine. It's really better for all 3 of those teams if you shuffle them around between Alabama, Kentucky, and Wisconsin to make those swaps. But it just didn't happen, and it is a shame. It's a shame for Wisconsin fans. I feel bad for people who are planning on going to the tournament. I feel bad for people who were already, booking hotel rooms or Airbnbs and trying to figure out what they wanted to do with their weekend. That really stinks. Like, it's, whatever. No sweat off my back. No sweat off the team's back. They're going to go out and they're going to compete, and they're not going to, like, maybe they're going to complain behind closed doors for like an hour, but you're not really going to hear it. They're going to, I would imagine somebody like Max Klesmit is going to come out and say, we thought we deserved it. We thought we had put together a good body of work. We thought we had put together a run in the Big Ten tournament that was deserving of being able to have us go. I can absolutely have somebody as outspoken as Klesmit is coming out and saying such a thing. But at the end of the day, they got to go out and compete. I like the potential draw of them having to play Alabama in the Sweet 16. It's something that I think makes a little bit of sense for Wisconsin. It's, not a super duper high pressure defense. They don't force a lot of turnovers. They play with ridiculous pace, which I think is going to challenge Wisconsin if Wisconsin and Alabama get to Newark. But Alabama's not a team that forces a ton of turnovers. That's different than what I think something like a St. John's on the 2 line would have done to Wisconsin. I think St. John's would have put Wisconsin in an absolute blender. I think that would have been a huge problem. But Alabama and Wisconsin would be a very fun basketball game to watch, I think, too. It's another set of 2 top 10 offenses, and 2 top 30-ish defenses would be a ton of fun to watch. 2 teams that shoot a ton of threes, I guess, would be the only way that game wouldn't be fun, is if just all of a sudden nobody was making shots. But Alabama makes layups better than basically anybody in the country as well. So that would be a ton of fun. But with Grant Nelson injured for Alabama and them playing Coy, but it doesn't sound like he's going to be available for the NCAA tournament. I don't think he's going to be available at all for the first weekend, would be my guess. But Grant Nelson at the 4 for them, just huge for what they do in that front court, that combo with he and Cliff Morey, of course, the transfer from Rutgers. So huge. I mean, Grant Nelson draws a ton of fouls, gets to the free throw line, and shoots okay from there. But he's a huge part of what they do on the glass. He's a huge part of what they do at the rim. That's tough. And then, you go and maybe your 1 seed is Duke, which I think is the most gettable of all the 1 seeds. So I'm there for that. I really hate the first weekend draw. I don't know if you caught on to that in the first 20 minutes. I do hate the first weekend draw, but apart from that, I think I'm fine with what could be waiting for them in the second weekend. Look, in the second weekend, looking at something like Duke, Mississippi State, or Baylor on the 8-9 line, nothing scares me there. Oregon, you can go out and beat that team. You should have beaten that team if you're Wisconsin earlier on anyway. Arizona, you've already shown that you can beat that team. That Arizona team is better now than they were earlier in the year, but I still think Wisconsin is slightly better than that Arizona team. Even if the predictive metrics don't necessarily show it. Also, this Arizona team has not had a good, March from February 11th to today. They are what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, they're under 500 February 11th to today. I think it's 5-7. Not good. There's nothing really in the sub region that totally scares me. So I'm good with it. No complaints. No complaints. No complaints whatsoever. Oh my gosh. I already booked my flights to and from Newark. So I believe. You're never gonna hear a piece out of me saying this team is not gonna do it all. Yeah. I believe if they make it to Newark, I will be there. I will be in the building this weekend when the Wisconsin women's hockey team wins a record 8th national championship, when they have a National Player of the Year for the first time since 2018. I will be there. When they beat Minnesota for the 6th time in a season for the first time ever, I will be there. I will be there. I'll be there for it all. I don't think I have any more angry rant in me anyway. But let's see if Slim Lewis can drag another one out of me. The Badgers are not a great team. The game early on versus Marquette showed how soft they can look against a tough athletic team. Look, I'm going to separate the first sentence with the second. What we saw against UCLA showed that this Wisconsin team can be a great team. If they are hitting shots, and yeah, you can kind of say this about anybody, but man, there is a potential in this Wisconsin Badgers basketball team to beat anybody in the country. They can go on a flamethrower heater and do it. They almost won today shooting 22% from the floor, for crying out loud. They can lock down and play some defense if they need to. This is a team that can win. I believe that this team is quite good. Now, the second part. That game early on versus Marquette showed how soft they can look against a tough athletic team. I think that high pressure defense that a team like Marquette can bring, like I said, I think they would be put in a blender by a St. John's. They fold against a defense like that. They do not look good against a defense like that. And it is something that Greg Gard and that staff has not solved all year, is when defenses extend themselves beyond the 3-point line. This Wisconsin team is tremendously challenged to do something. It's part of the reason, in my opinion, that they lost to UCLA the first time around. Wisconsin scored 80 points in that game, 83 points in that game. But against a team that forces a ton of turnovers, a top 10 team in the country by turnover percentage, Wisconsin turned over the ball 13 times in that game, and they got got. This isn't a Wisconsin defense that forces the number of turnovers that I think we've really come to expect over the last number of years. They were 331 in the country in turnovers forced. They are inefficient defense without being a very effective defense. I guess you would say, not in the sense that they don't get the job done, but in the sense that this isn't a defense that necessarily affects the game over and over again, right? They don't force turnovers. They don't block a ton of shots. They aren't going to force you into, bad threes necessarily. It's just, they play good team defense. They play really well positionally. They all have learned to follow the defensive rules. And it gets the job done to where they're a top 30 defense in the country, and that's about it. But on the opposite side of the ball, no, they've never figured out what to do against a defense that does affect the game in ways that Wisconsin does not. It is the same kind of thing that led to them losing to Maryland the first time around, right? A defense that will extend itself, a defense that does also force a whole bunch of turnovers. That's what happens there. I think we're right. Slim replying, I hope you're right and that I'm wrong. I think they'll get beaten in the second or third game of the tournament. Thanks for a great stream, Go Badgers. Yeah, you're welcome very much for hanging. Thank you very much for hanging around. It doesn't mean that I don't think they can get beat. I just don't think that. Look, BYU is not going to bring a defense that scares me in that matchup. They're not. BYU isn't. Montana isn't. Alabama is not. And so I don't think that Wisconsin has the potential of facing a defense that I think really frightens me. Oh, wait, they could play St. Mary's. Dude. Oh, no. This Wisconsin team against St. Mary's. No, I don't want that at all. Oh, man. That's like Wisconsin of old versus Wisconsin of new, man. That, oh, God. That would be kind of fun. Like as a basketball enjoyer, as a college basketball enjoyer, I would enjoy that game. As someone who would prefer the Wisconsin Badgers to win that game, I would not enjoy that game. All right. I think that is enough angry meltdown for me from the day. Yeah, I think I'm good. Look, I don't love the draw in terms of basically everything other than the teams on the court. When it comes to the teams on the court, I'm like pretty good with it. Alabama's missing a key piece at the 2 seed line. Montana isn't a 14 that scares me. 6 seed BYU, it's going to come down to who makes shots. And that could mean an absolute heartbreaker of a game, but like, okay, if St. Mary's gets out as the 7, I'd be quite worried. But at least if Wisconsin is going to have to play St. Mary's, they have to play St. Mary's in the first game. I think a team like St. Mary's is a much bigger threat if you play them in the second game of the weekend, which is why I think they might really give Alabama some trouble, particularly if Alabama is down Grant Nelson. In fact, I am talking myself right now into picking St. Mary's beating Alabama. Yeah, I mean, that team is so good. It's, oh, God. Oh, man. Oh, that game is going to be disgusting. I'm so looking forward. That's the fastest team by tempo in the country against a team in St. Mary's, which is like 359 in the country. I think that's going to be really, really, really good in terms of just who can determine that pace. It's, I mean, an awesome offense in Alabama against a top 10 defense in St. Mary's. That's a ton of fun. I mean, St. Mary's, which can't hit a 3 to save its life against the Alabama team that just shoots and hits 3s like it's nobody's business. I think that'll be a lot of fun. St. Mary's doesn't really let teams score from 3 either. So, I don't know what that game would turn into. I think that game would be good. And then whatever's at the top of the bracket comes out at the top of the bracket, and you got one game to win, right? Fine. And that one game to win might be against the weakest 1 seed there is. Achilles Plays says, not sure why everyone was complaining about the draw. Everyone in the tournament, 1 through 14 seeds are good teams. Good teams win games. I have a whole rant about this at the beginning of the show if you want to go back and listen. But to me, it's less about the teams. It's about the circumstances of having to play on Thursday, having to play at altitude against teams that are already used to playing at altitude. Having Milwaukee as an option, but it not being the option for them because the committee had to put Alabama in Cleveland, or so they thought. And so that meant that Kentucky had to go to Milwaukee, which is a move that to me doesn't make any sense. Jordan Bad, I have a whole rant about this at the beginning of the show. So go back and listen. I'm gonna wrap this up here. Yeah, this has been this has been the Selection Sunday edition of the Scotty Six Pack. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm talking some combination of basketball and the Wisconsin women's hockey team en route to a national championship. Go check out more of my stuff over at athlonbadgers.com. Lots of good stuff about the basketball team and the women's hockey team up right now. My name is Kendrick Summers. I cover the Wisconsin Badgers for Athlon Sports. Yes, Torah Abad. I hope you enjoy it. It is. I kind of lost myself in it a little bit. I cover the Wisconsin Badgers for Athlon Sports. You can find more of my work here. YouTube.com/@Scotty6Pack, or follow me on the website, formerly known as Twitter at Scotty6Pack, also or at Kendrick Summers. Follow me on Blue Sky at the same thing. We'll be back here tomorrow with less of an angry rant. Selection Sundays for reactionary takes. The reactionary takes only.